If you're watching this video on TikTok, things are going to get different around here starting January 1. That's because ByteDance, which is TikTok's owner, sold its American division to an investment company as part of a deal required by the U.S. government. So the algorithms are going to change because that investment company is going to create its own American version of the algorithms. Now, you might have seen some things already change. I know I have as a political content creator and one that's left-leaning. There is a content creator named Hawk who has a YouTube video, who's also on TikTok, a YouTube channel, and a TikTok channel. And he shared back in August, late summer, that he had an Insight Connect and that said in order to get that deal done that just got closed, they decided that they were going to try to suppress content that was too anti-Trump. So if you had any content that was critical of Trump that might have get rattled or throttled, that's the word I mean to say, then that's why. I know I was affected. My reach plummeted. My content dropped a lot. I'm a member of the Creator Fund or the Creator Program, and so compensation for that went to the basement. A lot of people will comment on my posts that they don't see my content. That's because it's most likely was purposely suppressed. So if you think that was bad, and that's before the deal, imagine what happens when the owner, Ellison, who is a donor of Donald Trump, though he doesn't own Oracle right now, when they take over, what's going to happen? Who knows? That's why you might have seen a lot of creators like myself and others start promoting other places. I am on lots of places at JJ Legal. I'm at JJ Legal on Substack, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on what else? All the places, Blue Sky. You can find me every place. Now, my preferable spot, if you want to go find me, is on YouTube. Now, if you would like to support my work here, I am a community-supported content creator. I gave up my day job and my small business I had to present this content for you. You can check out my jjlegal.com where you can buy me a coffee or support my merch, get one of my merch, each one take one merch, or get templates, sign up for my various different membership communities. There are lots of different ways you can support my work here. Now, what I would like to use this opportunity to do is to tell you to the extent to which a lot of this was by design. TikTok was never going anywhere. I know a lot of people were scared, and I am one of the folks because I have a federal communications regulatory background. I have a degree in communications law study and a couple of law degrees, and I was studying communications law when the laws changed. I was very much familiar and comfortable and confident in thinking it wasn't going anywhere. Why? Even though some people say the United States audience is pretty small compared to the world, and why would TikTok or ByteDance care? The answer is this, that the American audience, the United States has a high GDP, so that means the American audiences have more income and money to spend on advertisers' products. So marketers and advertisers love the American audience, and it's growing. It's one of the largest growing market of all the various different TikTok divisions around the world. And then finally, the creators that get the most views and had the most attraction are United States. So definitely ByteDance was not going to give that up. So no doubt. Now, it's all about leveraging. That's what this whole thing has been about. Now, the United States did have concerns. I monitored the United States Supreme Court oral arguments, and that came about because, remember, Donald Trump was the first person that proposed to ban TikTok way back when he was president. And when Joe Biden came into office, he paused it and had this interregulatory agency called Council for Foreign Investment in the United States do their job. It wasn't until it was discovered that TikTok or ByteDance was spying on two Chinese journalists and got out that people started getting worried, and the TikTok got banned from military devices, from state government devices, from federal devices. Eventually, Biden and Congress decided to just ban it altogether unless they would divest. It was, again, leverage, a means of removing the Chinese government's ability to control, because their laws are different. Like if you are a Chinese company, there's a presumption, there's a belief that they would be able to come in anytime and access the data. So the concern was there's so much data that they can control. And during the oral arguments, several of the justices asked whether or not Chinese government could use information that they discovered, that they learn of a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, when later on they become the national security advisor or something like that and blackmail them. Another concern is just content moderation. Would they be able to submit and promote and push propaganda? Because of those real concerns, that's why Congress banned it. When it came up with the Supreme Court, some people were saying maybe the Supreme Court would save it. I was like, why? They have no incentive. It's about leveraging. In order for them to get ByteDance to divest itself and to do what they wanted to do in terms of with content moderation and controlling the data, they had to ban it from the app, The Supreme Court had upheld it, and now the United States have its leverage. One thing happened, though, during the oral arguments. At one point, the lawyer representing the United States and the lawyer representing ByteDance had a headway when they decided, oh, wait a minute, this can be done technically. There's a technical fix. And one of the things I predicted was that I kind of actually predicted the technical fix. I said what was going to happen. I predicted, as me patting myself in the back, the exact percentage ownership. And it wasn't necessarily rocket science. It was because, it makes sense that if ByteDance were to sell it, they would have to get permission from the Chinese government. So the theory for me, and I'll explain this in videos. Actually, I'll post some of my receipt videos I did about this on the back end of this video, so you can see my receipts of this. A lot of stuff that I'm saying, it's backed up by the videos that I did over the course of the past year, because I've been knowing. Anyway, and so ByteDance was going to sell TikTok. They needed to would tell the Chinese government. And so if it was 50% ownership, it would be a partnership. It wouldn't be something they would necessarily need to get permission from. So that was the theory that I posited back then. And I even guessed that it would be Oracle, because Oracle was already the manager and owner of the American data. Why? Because back when Trump was trying to ban it, in order to try to avoid being banned, one of the things that TikTok did as a concession is take off the American data and let it be handled by an American company that was Oracle. So I had suggested, and just thinking around, I'm like, oh, it makes sense that perhaps Oracle would be the ultimate winner of the sale, which that's the case, because they already had a relationship with TikTok. They've already probably had the invoicing, everything's set up already. So it makes sense seamlessly to just move over. However, the reason why Oracle had a bid along the other folks is because leveraging. Again, like I said, this is all about leveraging. ByteDance will get more money if they get money from Kevin O'Leary had a group, and some other folks had groups. They're pitching, they're offering, they're giving money. And now ByteDance has several offers they can take to Oracle and get a better deal. And that's what I had said in some videos back then. But I still predicted, because Oracle had all the data and everything like that, and they'd already been working with them, that they were going to be the ultimate winner. So that's the case. It's the group headed by Oracle and those guys, and they own 50% ownership, just like I predicted. And the data is going to be, I mentioned how it's, in order to make it smooth sailing, they're going to cut off the different arm. And in order to satisfy the United States government, they're going to make sure it's insulated, so that only the American portion of the business, the 50% owner that's American, will be able to manage it. And they would have a different algorithms that deals with the questions about content moderation, data, and we're easy peasy, we're all together. Well, that's how it's supposed to work technically. And we'll see what happens. Oh, I even predicted that there'll be specific terms and carve out specific for managing the algorithm, because, as I've said before, it's the algorithm that's juicy. It's the algorithm that all of those guys want. I said when people were saying perhaps Mark Zuckerberg or Elon would get it, that no, because the United States has antitrust laws, and Elon already owns Twitter. Mark already owns Meta, which is Threads, Facebook, Instagram, and there was no way either one of them was going to be able to own another social media app. I predicted, as a lot of people did, that it was going to be an investment group. That's what happened when Grindr had to be sold off years ago as well. It went to an investment group. It's insulated, it's easy, it's seamless. You don't have any individuals. It's a cleaner way for it to be managed that way versus from an individual that already has only interest. So that's what it was. But no, the algorithm is the juicy thing. The algorithm is what everybody wanted to get their hands on. And so that's why it'd be interesting now that the Americans going to be able to do their own algorithm. Would it work the same? Because we know that I think that Instagram and YouTube's algorithms catching up to TikTok, and they're figuring out really quickly. So that's good. But it's still superior, I still think, TikTok's is. So we'll see what happens. And I don't know if I'll be here. So that's why you need to go to jjlegal.com. You can get I have a Trump survivor guide if you're interested in that. It includes Know Your Rights cards. It includes case trackers where you can download the documents to get the cases for free. It includes scripts in case you see someone being brutalized or someone who's being detained unlawfully, just so you can read it out, because we're memorializing all of this. So you get it at jjlegal.com, and in exchange, you get to give me my newsletter so I can communicate with you, because who knows what happens. We've already seen my reach is down. So you'll get my twice weekly newsletter, and you get that for free. Win-win. Each one get my sweatshirt. I respond to this person that says TikTok doesn't need us because we're so behind the Chinese that we're like the broke people wearing Gucci belts. Actually, that's not true. The United States represents a $6 billion of TikTok's $16.1 billion in 2023. And it's slated to have $11 billion in 2024. That represents 37.3% of its global revenues. And this is why I say this. This is why I believe in my heart of hearts that TikTok actually is going to go forward to stay. It does not want to give up 37.3% of its revenue. The American audience, the American buying audience is lucrative to advertisers because when I looked at the top 10 nations that have used TikTok the most, Americans use it the most compared to any other nation in the world. And additionally, advertisers are interested in putting their ads before countries where the citizens have a high gross domestic product, meaning that the money that I make and I have more buying power based on my dollar can afford their products. Where if they have an ad in front of an audience of a developing nation where there's low income, low GDP, they're not going to sell those products, but America's going to buy the stuff. So there are a lot of people making a lot of money off the American audiences. So TikTok will lose a substantial part of its ad budget, ad buyers, if they lose the American audience, and they don't want to lose that because that's money out their pocket. Because of that, they're going to sell. They're going to do something. That's my words. So what I believe is most likely going to happen, and you don't have to believe me or not, I'm hoping if I'm leaving these videos so in case this happens, I can have a I told you so moment and it can help me with my credibility, my authority on this area. What I believe will happen is that TikTok, and I've said this before in several videos, but I'm going to say this in this video, TikTok could negotiate itself to divest. ByteDance could divest of TikTok, where the American whatever owns it, entity that owns it. My last video talked about the 5 different people who could potentially purchase it. Whoever purchased it will get the majority share, whether that's 51, 63, 62, who knows, a share in TikTok. Now, what I think would happen is the algorithm, if this is possible, could be owned 50%. They can own different segments of TikTok. They don't have to buy all of it. Because when you buy a company, you buy different aspects of it. You can buy the ad revenue. You can buy the data sets. You can buy the buildings. You can buy the employees. You don't necessarily have to buy all of it. The algorithms, which is the key, could be purchased and owned rather than purchased. That part is 50%. 50%. The reason why that is good is because if it's 50% ownership, they do not need the Chinese government's authority and requirement, because Chinese government says the source code cannot be sold without their permission. So TikTok technically can't sell the source code, but there's nothing stopping TikTok from partnering up. A 50% ownership is not selling. It's a partnership. The law doesn't ban ByteDance from creating a partnership ownership in the algorithms. And if whoever acquires it has a 50% algorithms, that should satisfy the United States, because technically if they have 50% algorithms, no covert content manipulation, whatever the American government is concerned that the Chinese government would do, can be done without awareness of the American owners. So that's one option. Option 2 is they don't sell the algorithm. However, they let the United States government make aware that is a technical feasibility for them to wall off or firewall off the personal identifying information of the Americans. As a communications regulatory lawyer, I can tell you for certain that neither Elon Musk nor Mark Zuckerberg's Meta would be able to purchase TikTok. It's because in the United States we have antitrust laws, meaning that our Department of Justice bans any companies from forming a monopoly. We do have natural monopolies: oil, water, gas, electricity, communications, where there's like one company that serves one area and they're heavily regulated. So we try to stop future ones. So if you've seen in the past where some companies try to gobble up too many, when they attempt that, the government will come in and stop the sale. So that's what would happen here. Most likely TikTok is going to be purchased by an investment group. There's already 2 or 3 already existing out there. They just have to hammer out the details as to what assets they sell. The most lucrative thing that TikTok has is its algorithms. That's what all those other social media platforms are hammering to get their hands on. But so TikTok's saying, how can you separate the data from the technology in the United States and other countries? It can't be done. So they'll work out the details later, just let you know. This is the compromise. I think they're going to sell the subsidiary, the American data portion. They're going to create an American subsidiary. They're going to sell it to one of 3 investment groups that's going to bid the proposal they're putting together now. So there are 5 potential offers out for TikTok. And you best believe there are a lot of billionaires involved. So let's go through the different 5. So of the 5 offers, I only think 3 of them are viable because 2 of them is Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk already owns Twitter, United States federal regulatory antitrust laws most likely will block any attempted purchase from Elon Musk. The second is Microsoft because they were in the works at one point, but because Microsoft, again, owns so much of technology and data, they also could run into regulatory hurdles. Now, the 3 entities left that I think most likely can buy it, the most recent one was this one right here. So this is billionaire Frank McCourt. So he's partnered up with Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary, Project Liberty, and they put together a package and have presented it to TikTok as an offer. I'm not quite sure what their offer states, but that's the most recent one. So that's a contender. So that is the third. Again, like I said, 2 of them, Microsoft and Elon Musk, most likely won't be doing it, but here's one. So a second offer to come from this guy, Body Kotick. So he is the CEO of what is this, Activision Blizzard, or he used to be. So he came into a lot of money. He was contacted by the founder of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, to put together an offer. And so that was last year. And so there is appetite for that. So he's another person, and he actually expressed interest to ByteDance. So he's a potential. Finally, this is the one I think is going to actually stick because they already actually negotiated with TikTok. They already drafted up documents. This is Doug McMillon. He is the CEO of Walmart. At one point, right after Donald Trump attempted to ban TikTok, TikTok had sued. While they're waiting to their litigation go into play, they started negotiating with Oracle. Oracle is the cloud computing company that actually houses all of the data at some point in order to appease United States federal regulators. Oracle and TikTok or ByteDance got into a partnership. So all of American data is stored in Virginia and Oracle is their partner. So Oracle, along with Walmart, put together an offer and they was working through the deal where TikTok was going to own 80% or something, whatever the deal was. And then the deal closed when TikTok beat Donald Trump. Like I've said in previous videos, if you watch me, I say Donald Trump's attempt to do an executive action would always fail because he doesn't have the authority to it. And it's a failure. So this is who I think actually would, if there is going to be a sale, I think it would be between this guy, Doug McMillon's group would probably win. I don't know. I don't know what Project Liberty and Kevin O'Leary and that other guy put together. So it's possible they put together a lucrative offer, but those are the main contenders. And I know a lot of people think that Mark Zuckerberg would have been on the play, or they feel like, or there is evidence that Mark Zuckerberg actually lobbied to get this ban passed. So there is that. However, Mark Zuckerberg, again, just like Elon Musk, owns too much of the internet already. Meta has WhatsApp, it has Instagram, it has Threads, it has, what else? It has Facebook. So there's no way it would pass antitrust muster. So Mark Zuckerberg is not. So if you hear anyone say, oh, Mark Zuckerberg just wants to buy it, that's not going to be in this. They won't. That's not a thing. He may have some interest. He may know people who may purchase it. And so, at the end of the day, it's about the algorithms. It's all about the algorithms. What's the technical loophole that no one is talking about? I haven't seen it. So here, when I was listening, I'm going somewhere so I get in the car. There was discussion where you could see there was negotiation breakdown at some point. And during the oral arguments, for the first time, TikTok's attorney, Noel Francisco, heard the government's attorney, Elizabeth Prolagar, say something that he was like, oh, that's what y'all wanted? Okay, we can do that. At the same time, during oral arguments, Noel Francisco mentioned something that piqued Elizabeth Prolagar's ear and said, whoa, I didn't know that was on the table. We never discussed this. We never talked about this. So I'm going to tell you what that technical thing is in a second. But that tells me that there is a door opener for there could be a technical fix where possibly, ByteDance wouldn't even have to divest from TikTok. Here's the technical thing that I'm talking about. Elizabeth Prolagar said that for the first time during the oral arguments, she learned, it wasn't her understanding, that ByteDance had a ability technically to do what's called walling off, or firewalling of the data, and that was on the table, and she was understanding that it was impossible because of the constant data flow between the engineers and the algorithm, the data center in China and TikTok, United States, that constant data flow in order for the juice to make it do what it do. There was no way of walling off Americans' data. So it's apparently during the oral arguments, Noel Francisco kind of suggested that that's an option. So that could have been something that TikTok was holding close because they didn't want to give it up. They didn't want to do that because it's probably a pain in the butt and expensive and costly. They were trying to avoid doing that. But he kind of leaked it. Same time, at some point, Elizabeth Prelogar, she's my friend, I'm calling her Elizabeth, the United States government said, the attorney said, mentioned something about non-sensitive data, that they were concerned about non-sensitive data flow, and she didn't like that. So to which Noel Francisco said, what? So y'all are concerned about non-sensitive data? We had that going back and forth because we didn't know that was an issue. Now we know that's an issue. We could have clearly had just banned that off too. Like if that was a concern, we'd have done that. So his whole thing is that y'all left the table too soon. Like there were other restrictions and options that we could have done and explored to avoid this this divestiture requirement, but you left the table too soon. So we can go back. And she was like, well, that's the first time I'm hearing. So with these two things, I'm thinking if anyone's careful with the administration, if you're listening to this video, you guys share it with them. You know anybody in administration, with the next administration or with the government or TikTok, whatever, you know anybody, TikTok, y'all listening. There was a door opener to go back. And how I think this could work out is if that door opener exists, and with the Trump administration wanting to make it work, and with that door opener, perhaps potentially they can go back and maybe have a quick little sort of like a resolution from the Congress to repeal it temporarily for the purposes of repeal the ban temporarily for the purpose of working this out to see if the national security agreement that TikTok has with the United States can add these new like assurances, these new safety firewalls that maybe never were discussed before, and that would save them the need to maybe divest. Who knows? Let's see how it works out. That's just something I thought was a technical fix possibly, but that's just my theory. I wanted to put that out there just in case that comes to fruition later on. I could pat myself in the back and y'all could say, yeah, I heard this woman on TikTok, on YouTube, on Threads mention this. Yeah, JJ Gat, she's smart. Go follow her. Follow me here and on YouTube, just in case. You just never know. And Threads and all plays JJ Gat. I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, I know what I'm talking about because I did federal regulatory law for several years, including media law. I was part of the Children Online Privacy Protection Act, drafting that legislation, and lobbied the FCC, and was part of the Federal Communications Bar Association, and wrote a Supreme Court brief. So I know what I'm talking about. So I have some credibility in all this. So I'm not just pulling this out of my air. And I have to say these things because a lot of times when I come on here, people just scroll. People just assume I don't know what I'm talking about. They just like, ah. So I have to like drop my credentials. So I'm not trying to be like Star Jones with it. Like, I'm a lawyer. You know Star Jones, you guys know her. She's always say, I'm a lawyer. I just feel like I have to drop my credentials so people can like take my theories like seriously. Like, I know what she been knowing. You know we've been knowing. And I'm part 92%. And 92%, most of us is like checked out. So y'all lucky y'all even have me. Scroll, follow along, save, share. Tell your friend. Thank you for asking. This is how I think it's going to work out. I might be wrong. So what I think is that when TikTok in 2020 was negotiating with the CEO of Walmart and Oracle to sell off 81% of its interest in exchange for whatever, that deal fell through because they had sued Donald Trump saying he didn't have the authority to ban the app, and they won. So when they won, that deal folded because they didn't need it anymore. They needed to divest, right? So now, in the heels of this other potential ban again, I think they reignited, they went back to the table and started negotiating things secretly just in case they don't get their way. This is what I think happens. They had other offers, and what they could use with the other offers that came in, they can go back to Oracle and that team and say, hey, these are what these other offers come in. Can you match it? I think that's all been secret backdoor negotiations this entire time. But what happened is ByteDance was holding that to their chest because if they were to just sell and fold right away, they will lose leveraging opportunities. And also they want to get the most amount of money, the bang for their buck as possible. And they would not want to sell it. Now, here's what I think will happen. Part of the deal. This is my theory. I might be wrong. I think two scenarios could happen where they be allowed to stay. They will sell it because in order to sell something, you only need to change in ownership. You just need majority. So they don't necessarily need to sell it for 81%. They don't need to maintain 81% ownership, whatever like that. Or they could sell it for more than that. It doesn't matter. I think they will sell a portion of it sell it, so they lose, the other, so it's 51%, 49% they own it. But as part of a condition of the sale, I think that they will sell like the advertising revenue, the assets, the employees, the buildings in America, wherever it is. They're going to sell all that. I think one portion of with the sale, the algorithm, the connecting to the algorithm, that whatever that is, to go back and forth, they're going to do a 50% ownership. This is one scenario. The 50% ownership, the reason why, because it's a partnership. If you're equal, no one owns anything. It's 50% partnership is owned, so everyone has equal share. So the Chinese government says that that they have a law that says you cannot sell any intellectual property, including the source code, to anybody else without permission from the Chinese Communist government. And they've already said that we're not letting ByteDance sell the source code. So if 50% is not a sale, it's a partnership. So there's nothing in their law, unless they change the law, that says they can't enter a partnership for ownership. Now, that would satisfy the Chinese arm. On the American side, it would also satisfy the American because, again, with the 51%, 49%, the American company's going to own it. So they only said to divest. They have to sell it. So once they do 51%, it's sold. It meets the American side. And with the American company having ownership, equal partnership, arguably, the American government was concerned that the Chinese government is going to have access to this data, right? They can say there's a firewall available to stop it, whatever, or whatever. The second thing, they said they were concerned about covert content manipulation. If they were going to engage in covert content manipulation, the 50% ownership, the American entity that owns it, arguably would be able to be aware that that was going on, hopefully, ideally. So that would, because the American government, American entity would own that, have that 50% interest in it, opportunity to know that would stop it. And that'd be, if there was doing that or whatever, they, maybe they can stop it. If they see an employee doing whatever, so they can stop it because they have 50% ownership. So that's how they can structure it.